It's August 21st. A hallmark of Ezekiel's writing was that he was very specific about dates. Today's reading occurs on August 14th of 591 BC. And while in captivity in Babylon, Ezekiel is approached by some of Israel's leaders who ask him to give them a word from the Lord. And the Lord's response to these leaders is unusual. He unloads on them, telling them that their sins of their ancestors are more widespread and much worse than they realize. Reaching all the way back to the days of their forefathers' captivity in Egypt, God explains that their heritage is one of constant and continual rebellion against His commandments. He tells them that their forefathers' rebellion has continued right up until that day, and that they have no right to ask Him for a prophecy. In God's response, He reveals a core reason why the people of Israel were so continually obstinate. In chapter 20, verse 32, the Lord tells them, "You say, we will be as the nations, as the families of the countries all around us, to serve idols of wood and stone. We want to be like the nations all around us." This helps us understand why the Israelites, through the generations, roughly 800 years, from 1400 BC to that time, had such difficulty following God's commandments. Ultimately, they were lured by and enamored with the practices, values, and lifestyles of their neighboring cultures. They preferred pagan culture over God's designs. Ironically, while they prided themselves as the ancestors of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, they actually behaved like the ancestors of Jacob's brother Esau, who you'll remember from your reading on January 9th, traded his inheritance for a bowl of stew. So the root cause of their failure was that they didn't appreciate, embrace, and live out their true identity. They failed to understand the value and worth of who they were called to be as God's unique people. God had called them to an unprecedented privilege, to greatness, to be the people of God, the sons and daughters of the Creator of the universe, heir to all He has. But so many of them disregarded it, preferring evil disguised as a cheap imitation of what God was offering. Here's today's application. That's the real challenge, isn't it? To not be distracted by and attracted to the evil that is disguised as a cheap imitation of what God is offering. Sometimes the distractions can be very enticing and the disguises quite convincing. Today's reading is a reminder not to fall for cheap imitations, but to use discernment to see, embrace, and live out the authentic life that God is offering. Now here's today's prayer.